Hey, what's going on YouTube? Kenny here, and today we're going to talk about all things Jumia, and that is because Jumia is one of our biggest holdings in our long-term no-look portfolio. That said, when we see price action in the short-term move against us, we want to always make sure that the macro trends or the thing that we think the company should be doing is very constructive. And so we are still very constructive on Jumia. In fact, we did a bunch of research. Like always, Redcliffe Research. And if you're new here, Redcliffe Research is an independent research firm that deals a lot in data analytics and is very quant heavy. Therefore, we're always looking for signal in the noise, and we're always looking for the best trades for our clients. You guys are the clients. So bringing all that stuff to the retail investor. Anyways, what we want to talk about today is Jumia still a good buy? I will offer you a couple opinions from myself. Obviously, very bullish. And if you think you need to be selling Jumia here, there's two things that I think is happening. One, you bought it 60 or 65 or whatever it got to. Don't care. Thing is, you bought it at the top and you're really worried. I'm not worried. It's going to get back to 65 one of these days. Not financial advice, whatever. You get the point. Second piece. This is a really good time to buy. Really, really good time to buy. And I will show you why in a second here. So let's go ahead and just break down some of the news that I saw. And let's just go ahead and get into it. So really quickly here, we know that Jumia kind of missed on revenue. No worries about that. We understand that they kind of lean back into advertising, so understandably so, because they don't have the pandemic tailwinds anymore. So definitely want to make sure that we can get some synthetic growth as well as natural growth. But just do remember that GMV grew to 23.5, and this is off of Jumia Pay. The second piece is transactions made on the platform grew 12.1% to 2.7 million, the fastest transaction growth rate Jumia has witnessed in 4 quarters. And you're like, Kenny, these are numbers. We already know this. Earnings, boring. Yes, I know. I just wanted to reiterate that there is some good news in the earnings still. We broke this down earlier. But we didn't fully break down the earnings call, but you didn't really miss much. Just know that, companies are allowed to have bad quarters. That is kind of the gist of it. As long as the bad quarter doesn't exceed or get extremely unlucky or have some critical failings, then you should be scared, i.e. wish. But in this case, I think it's just very reasonable, and there was some good things that you can pull out of the earnings. Okay, this is really interesting. So hedge funds have opened up massive amount of positions. Not massive, but the idea here is you went from about 6 funds holding Jumia to now about 16. So the deal for me here and the kind of big takeaway is if you didn't know who Renaissance Technologies is, it's a fund kind of managed by Jim Simmons back in the day. I don't know if he's still there or whatever like that. It doesn't matter. It is the only hedge fund who has significantly beat the markets year over year over time forever. And they don't even accept outside money anymore. It's all just like inside money, people who work at the hedge fund. And in fact, it's even worse than that. Now I think you can't even put money even if you are in the fund. Not sure about that, so don't quote me on that one. But anyways, the point is, they have significantly beat the market year over year in excess of, I want to believe, 65%. Haven't read the book in a while, but you get my point. Anyways, point is they're in. They have $37.5 million worth. So if you don't believe me, smarter folks than me are making this bet as well. And that's because, if you're new to this channel, it's one of those ones where in hindsight, you're like, man, really wish I would have gotten China in the 90s. Well, here you go. Africa in the 2020s. What's the point? Is it scary right now because it's not completely kind of washed out or hashed out? Yeah, of course. But that's why risk is involved, and risk equals reward. And so just making sure that you take the right risks, right? Okay, so just going through a little bit of not even news, but I mean, if you just kind of scrape the internet, they're looking at this 5G Nokia phone going to Kenya. And the reason I bring this up is it's anecdotal, but really we were talking about internet penetration back in the day, talking about, that's kind of like the catalyst, making sure that we have enough internet, enough 5G, enough kind of e-commerce to kind of sustain and propel Jumia into the next kind of stratosphere. And yeah, look at here. It's only available in all these places, but then Jumia. And then second, if you didn't know, there's alternative banking systems there in Africa. One of the reasons, the continent of Africa, one of the things that they do is they use these gift cards, which have money on them, to kind of exchange between each other. Don't exactly know the system perfectly, and I don't want to kind of go into this because I'm not the the gift card technician when it comes to understanding exactly how it works. But the idea here is when we're talking about this is, it says here the way you can do is through a third-party website. Different websites such as Amazon, PayPal give you room to purchase hundreds of gift cards online. In Nigeria, you can also purchase various gift cards from famous sites like Congo and Jumia. So Jumia definitely listed as one of the top sites. Obviously, you have Congo here, one of the near competitors. But again, Jumia is a publicly traded company. If you're going to bet in Africa, if you're going to bet on a bunch of folks who are trying to work the e-commerce system in Africa, we are in Jumia. Now, if Congo was traded publicly as well, would we put some stake in Congo? Maybe, but they're not. And in fact, I think that's one of the strengths of Jumia is being able to come to market and have retail investors and private equity get into the round of funding there. Okay, so we want to break down the chart, but before we break down the chart, let me take a look at implied volatility. So everybody knows that after earnings, there's this thing called IV crush, so implied volatility crush. So this is important for options. So the thing is, when there is crush to the downside, and so this orange line right here is what you see here. This orange line is basically the 30-day moving average for implied volatility. And if it's over it, it's a mean reverting line, right? So if it's under it, it should go back up. So volatility should spike back up. And this is generally following the trend of UVIXI, or the VIX rather. And so it's nothing to write home about because volatility is down overall. But that's the time that you want to be buying options. So, sometimes we take just simple leverage in the form of margin or whatever like that. But I'm here to tell you that, if you're looking at leaps right now, it's probably a pretty interesting time to buy them. You have low volatility. Options are going to be cheaper. And so for those reasons, it should revert back to the mean and become more expensive just from the volatility's sake, not to mention, obviously, the price increase in the stock. So you're looking at twofold. One, it's at an interesting level, an $18 support that we've seen previously right here. So we saw it right here, and we're seeing it touch again. And we obviously have seen 18 here and here a bunch of times. Will it hold? We hope so. Not positive, though. Here's the deal. Even if it doesn't hold, I'm laughing all the way to the bank because I'm really ready to buy if it hits $12.55. This is where we will load the boat. Am I nibbling here? Yes. Because of the things that I told you and the reason why I showed you, I do believe 18 right now is a sensible time to nibble a little bit. We're picking up some here. I might be remiss by not picking up more, but I do think that maybe there's a chance it trades sideways for a while here. And that would be super healthy, and I would be completely okay with that going into next earnings. And then next earnings, hopefully we can get our little spike to the upside. Still believe so this top right here, I really do believe we can still visit this top. It is not out of the kind of running for Jumia. Depends what the market's going to do. But if we have a full-on rally, it is entirely possible for a couple reasons. But for one, Jumia, when it moves, it usually moves bigly. And we just need a nice little catalyst in the way of earnings as they kind of shore up their kind of balance sheet and kind of make that reflect what's happening on the ground in terms of their growth, right? So anyways, that's kind of what we're looking at. And the one thing that I want to talk about too here is, we did a chart for Jumia recently. We put it against the Melee chart and showed where we were at in the kind of life cycle, and it matches verbatim. Verbatim, is that good? No, but it's a good proxy. It's a good leading indicator because, we essentially used it to make our 28x kind of thesis. And to that point, the chart is moving in tandem. And so the way you want to look at charts is really, if you look at here, the idea here is, it's telling you a story. And in hindsight, the story is going to be really obvious to you. So the story right now is, 1 second. It IPOs, you get the flash to bang, kind of sells off, loses interest. tries to get his feet together. A lot of kind of volatility, a lot of just scared money here right now, and then just not a lot of news, a lot of just growing, a lot of just running up, and then we get this big run up, and then this is issuing shares, all this other stuff, and then more pandemic madness and then insecurity. But I mean, the idea here is, in aggregate, in the macro, you zoom out to like the weekly chart, for instance, this chart, again, looks very, very similar to Melee. And that's Mercado Libre. So, I mean, that's just anecdotal evidence, but I'm just saying when you tell the story of a growth of an e-commerce provider in a country that's emerging in an emerging market, you might want to compare it to another emerging market. And I know South America is not perfectly similar, but we showed you how it was similar in the 28x video. So anyways, if you're thinking about selling Jumia, I'm a buyer. I'm a buyer here. Do whatever you want. It's not financial advice. You are your own trader, but this is definitely a long-term investment for us. And I do believe that it's one of those ones that's just super sensible. So, yeah, didn't want to go over too much. There's not a ton of news, but just kind of keeping a pulse on this. The next thing that we want to watch for is just flat out earnings. There's not a lot that you can do when it comes to e-commerce, and that's why it's a super boring play, and people aren't really in love with it. But as you can see, Renaissance Technologies in the trade, and they're traders, by the way. So in the short term, this might work very well as well. So, yeah, I'm in. Thanks for watching, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye.